that took me 18 months to develop. It's a gluten-free product. It's the only bread of its kind in the whole world. It's also the only bread of its kind that is getting people off medication, whether that's for diverticulitis, a whole host of autoimmune conditions. So yeah, it's life-changing stuff. We've been really fortunate to meet people along the road who were about to get their bowels removed, but by eating this bread every day for 2 weeks, they didn't get their bowel removed. So that's something I'm really, really proud of. And then that was basically the product that started the company. And then from there, I created a whole host of other kind of fermented foods. I'll talk about how I develop product, and I'll talk about the equation based on how your gut bacteria likes to eat later. But for now, I'm going to hand around some of these fermented biscuits. So anyone here low in iron? I mean, there's loads of women here, so if you're on your period in particular, you definitely need one of these. These gingerbreads, they are very, very low in gluten, in case gluten is a thing for anyone. Though gluten intolerance actually isn't a thing, it's fibre. People are malnourished, that's what the thing is. And I'll go into detail on that later. So these gingerbreads, one of these has 80% your iron for the day. So if you are currently bleeding, please have one. Or if you are a runner, you are burning through your iron stores really, really quickly, please have one. And if you are a male and you're going to do a workout later and you want to further your endurance levels, please have one. So the only gluten flour in this is einkorn, which is grown in Ireland, and it's really, really low in gluten, very, very high in fibre. So these are awesome. So you guys can start opening those, Monique. And then these ones, so we've got 2 types of biscuit for you this morning. So anyone with celiac disease, this one is for you. So these are teff ferments, a great source of magnesium and calcium. So anyone with any muscle pain, any soreness, struggling to sleep, anyone that's got digestive health issues, sluggish digestion, these teff ferments are absolutely amazing. These for me are a really good breakfast biscuit and something to have on the go when traveling. So if you guys want to start opening those, so just split it open at the top and then you can. And then you've probably seen this little card already, but this is a little card for you guys to start handing around. So this just gives you information on what you're eating today and the nutrition in each thing if you want to pass those back. So yeah, do not leave this room hungry today. Please eat all the biscuits and everything else. And then we'll get cracking into the talk. So you have just eaten a third of your daily amount of fibre in the slice of bread that you've just had. So it's up to you now to eat a good, nutritious lunch and dinner and then have a wild weekend. So yeah, I can get cracking into the talk. Yeah. My name's Karen Donoghue and I was bowel challenged. When I was a baby, I was born with IBS constipation. Which is great. So my mother was like, her nappies are fierce clean. What is going on? And I was so badly constipated that she brought me to the GP. And I'm not sure what age group you guys are, but I'm 38. So 38 years ago, it was perfectly okay to go to a GP and for him to stick his finger up your ass. And so that's what he did to unclog me. And it worked. And then the heavens opened. And that was great for everyone involved. But that obviously was a temporary measure and one that was definitely not sustainable. So growing up in Ireland, in Cork, with a brother and sister who did not seem to be as bowel challenged as I was, I used to sit in the toilet for quite a long time. So I could be in the toilet for 30 minutes. And it was really shit. So I was like, okay, this is really terrible. Like, what's going on with me? And then when I was 10, my mother was very, very ill with cancer. So my parents were horticulturists. My father still is. And so every Easter, me and my brother and sister, we would be out in the nursery planting beech saplings or bay saplings or alder or whatever. And, my mom's on chemo, she's on radium, she's really, really sick. It's kind of affecting the whole family because we're a young family and we're like, oh my God, our mom's going to die. Like, this is awful. So that has a huge effect on me because I am, as a family unit, we are now weak, right? So we are feeling unsupported and all of our energy and emotional well-being is going into this idea that we're going to lose our mom. And so and we do. And so from there, you know, our family is now out of whack. And I don't feel supported, neither does my brother, neither does my sister, neither does my father. And we're in a capitalist system that's also not supporting us, and it's not giving us the emotional support we need, or it's not feeding us in how we need to be fed. Because we're all now concerned about our own health, and I don't want to die of cancer. This brand has been like, this brand has basically been a brand based on activism, passion, and a yearning to leave the world a better place. So when I was 10 years old, these slides aren't really in the best order. I'll come back to those. This is the first time I've presented the company, by the way, so this is a bit of a weird moment for me. Okay, so this is it, okay? So I was 10 years old, and I was out in the field getting the saplings in the ground. And Mom's in the house on chemo, and I'm literally digging a sapling into the ground, and I like look up at the sky, and I'm like, when I grow up, I want to create a brand that stands for preventative medicine. Because as soon as you get to the point where you need prescriptive medicine, your chance of living a long and healthy life diminishes. And I wanted to reduce the risk of one contracting a disease that was going to ultimately kill them and then badly affect the people that were left behind. So that's been my kind of raison d'etre. And then it was in my early 20s that I was living in London. I was stressed. I was working in a startup. I was working 7 days a week. And my constipation had gotten so bad that I was suffering from bad depression, and I had aches and pains all over my body. And, you know, I was like, I'm really on a quick and fast journey here to getting colon cancer if I don't sort this out. So maths and science were my best subjects in school, so I just nosedived into researching everything that was coming out on the microbiome at the time. So this is 2013, 2014, 2015 in London. And tech, like all my friends are working in tech. Tech is having its moment. And my ex-husband is a serial entrepreneur, and he started and sold loads of tech companies. So he's like a raging capitalist. And I'm just like, I just want to leave the world a better place. How am I going to do that? So within that environment of people who were kind of money mad and luxury item mad and wanting to get happiness from capitalism, I was like, okay, let's just bring it back to basics. Like, how can I get rid of my constipation? How can I build a happier life? And how can I then create a sustainable life? And so as an Irish person living in London, I was like, where's the brown bread? I love brown bread. There's no brown bread. So that was very disappointing. It didn't help the depression. So I thought, okay, I'll develop a bread and I'll try and make it taste absolutely amazing. So I literally just became this like geek for 18 months, and on average was reading 10 research papers a day. And then what came really naturally and became really obvious was there is a mathematical equation that is the foundation of life. And I saw this equation, and then I stuck to this equation and built every single recipe on top of that. And then on top of the recipe, obviously there was process. So there's a huge amount of process to make food digestible. And we can get stuck into that as well if you guys want. Yvonne was asking me, like, how did the company start? And the company did start with, you know, trying to address my own health problem. And yeah, it was based out of my flat. And I suppose, you know, when you're starting something and it's at odds with capitalism, and it's at odds with the belief system of those around you, you got to get real comfortable with discomfort, because it is really easy to see a business, copy it, and do it in the next village over, right? There are loads of models. I once went for a bank loan, and they were like, if you were a hair salon, we give you a loan in the morning, but you're not. We don't know what you are, so no loan. So Like if you're a garage, if you're a regular bakery, like a sourdough bakery that's putting 1,000 sourdoughs out every day and a few pastries and blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, nice branding, nice messaging, tick, 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 you know, 67% profit margin, done. But that's not fucking working. Like, that's just not fucking working. So I was like, that's not working. You guys are in complete operational mode. No one here is being entrepreneurial. No one. Like, no one. No one in farming is being entrepreneurial. No one in the food industry is being entrepreneurial, even though we have hundreds and hundreds of years worth of information to give us the power to be entrepreneurial. So I was infuriated with the industry that wasn't serving me, and that's not serving anyone in this room. Most people in this room are malnourished. Most people in this room are not hitting your daily RDA of fibre, and if you're not, your chances of contracting some sort of inflammatory issue go way up, and when you're in your 60s, you will get cancer. And that's what's happening all over the world right now. And again, I can go into detail if you want to explore that later. So this is what I discovered to be true. Fibre is the foundation of life. Fact. So without enough of it, you will become ill, and without it, we die off. Fact. So this is the ratio that came out of my 18-month research period. And this is how everyone needs to be eating. No one's eating in this way. We build our products based on this formula. This is the foundation of life. And at the time, because there were so many research papers on this, I was like, why aren't all food companies running their businesses like this? I'm outraged. I'm not as outraged anymore because you kind of have to become a bit more relaxed for people to take you seriously. So that's the journey I'm on now. But I was really fortunate. So my pivot moment, so how this went from complete and utter idealism into a business that earns me and my team money and allows us to make this more of a worldwide mission is, anyone familiar with the Soho Houses in London? Yeah. So the owner of Soho House approached me. He said, Karen, I've heard about what you've been doing. I'd love for you to present it in Shoreditch House Saturday morning to about 300 of our members. And I was like, geez, that's very kind of you. Now, at the time, I have only recently started eating in this way. I have only recently had bowel freedom. So I'm not long out of depression. And I'm still quite anxious, and I'm a little bit like insecure about talking about what I'm talking about because, you know, I'm not the age I am now. I'm not as wise as I am now. So I have very little experience about talking what it is I've set out to achieve. And I've so little experience about talking about what I've set out to achieve that my self-esteem and my sense of self-worth is still quite low. And if someone like a raging investment banker is going to come at me with loads of questions and question what I'm trying to do, my ability to argue for what I'm trying to do is not good enough right now, okay? So I want to protect myself. I want to boundary what I'm trying to create. So from 2015 to 2019, no one really sees me. I'm a bit like, I'm an introvert. I'm not going out. I'm also baking from 3 a.m. every morning until 11 p.m. at night. So there's that. I'm 2 stone lighter than I am today. You know, all that's going on. But that moment in Shoreditch House, I rocked up with the bread that you guys ate today with peanut butter and jam. And I presented to a room full of, there was maybe 300 people in the room that day. And out of those 300 people, 200 people put up their hand and they said they would spend £20 on that loaf of bread every week. Because they were sitting there and they said, I've never felt so good, like I'm going to go for a poo after this, like this is fucking phenomenal. And I was looking at them, and now at the time, my ex-husband is like, no one's going to buy your bread, like, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, I need to become a dietitian. But being a dietitian is really limiting when you want to change the state of the health and the food system. So I was like, I'm going to build a bakery school. So I walked into the room that day thinking, I'm going to build a bakery school. And I came out of that room that day, and the next day I built a website, I left my job, and I set up the Happy Bread Company. In the room that day was the buyer from Planet Organic who commissioned me to make a range of breads for all Planet Organic stores across London. There was a gym owner. She asked me to make the bread for all their gyms across London. So that day basically changed the course of my life. And so that was my moment. And I guess the advice to you being stay alert to what your moment is, because everyone has a moment. That was mine. So that was that day. That was how the bread looked back then. But those 200 people were my community, right? And So I was really lucky because my company started with community. It didn't start with investment. It didn't start with how can I make this cheap. My company started with, there is a health problem. 33% of British people have constipation. That's my market, right? That's my market right there. And now I've got these 200 people. So 200 multiplied by 20, I've got a business, okay? So I came up against a lot of negativity from absolutely everyone, including my family. And so that was really deeply uncomfortable, like to be so unsupported when you're like, I'm trying to change the world. It's very, very discomforting. But I had my customer, right? I had my customer who was like, I'm here for this. Fuck the rest of them. I'm the person that's going to spend £20 on this loaf of bread. So I was like, yes, Sean, yes. So Sean and I got together and everything worked out grand in the end. But the thing about creating a consumer-centric business is you are always led by responsibility. If I have set out to save someone from losing their gallbladder or their colon or their mental health, I'm taking that really responsibly. So I'm not going to shave anything off, right? I'm not going to use cheaper ingredients. I'm not going to use cheap materials. I'm not going to underpay my staff. I'm going to underpay myself, but I'm not going to devalue a single person in that chain because that's not what I'm about. I'm about saying to my manager, Sinead, you need to be on more money. I say to my bakers all the time, my mission is to get you all on more money. I say that to them every week because it has to be central to our business and our brand. So the well-being of those around me, whether it's a farmer, one of my bakers, or a customer, in my eyes, we're all the same person. It's a collaborative, and it's a collaborative effort to change the state of the world we're in. Okay, this is how everything went, okay? So I've got no money. I'm in an unhappy marriage. I don't want to get investment because he's turned me off investment. So I'm like, I need cash flow, stat. And so I'm like, okay, right, I can build this website. So, you know, WordPress websites are out at the time. They're a bit more complicated than Shopify, but, you know, great. So build a WordPress website and I go out to Italy and different places and I find my suppliers who are just the best nut suppliers and grain suppliers and seed suppliers in the world. And they're excited and slightly scared about how mental I am. But I launch as a subscription service. So I get my kitchen in Hackney organically certified by the Soil Association. At the time, I've got a basement in my house that is perfect for grain storage. So I've got one of those 2 double oven things. So I can bake 32 loaves of bread every 80 minutes. So I'm baking 32 loaves of bread every 80 minutes from about 3:30 in the morning until 1:30, 2 p.m. in the day. I do that 5 or 6 days a week. And then at the time we were using Royal Mail to deliver, so we did next day delivery. So we delivered all over the UK. And so Royal Mail, big truck, like rocked up outside my house in Hackney, and all the bread would go in. And then I'd go back into the house and then I would start doing customer service. So I was hustling fucking hard. And that was great. And I got cash flow into the business, so I didn't need a loan, I didn't need investment. I just needed grit and perseverance and really good mental health. And I was on this stuff all the time, so it was brilliant. And then obviously some people are like, you know what, I don't want a subscription. I hate subscription. I just want one-off. So then we brought one-offs in. And then those supermarkets I was telling you guys about in those gyms, then we launched in them. So we launched in supermarkets, gyms, and cafes. Now, at this point, me and my ex-husband, we had this cleaner, Virginia, who's a Bulgarian lady. And I was like, Virginia, how do you feel about giving up cleaning and becoming my first baker? And she was like, yeah, brilliant, fantastic. So she just like said to all her clients, bye, I'm off to be a baker. Now, I'm not a baker. I just taught myself. So teaching someone else to be something that you're not is really weird. And again, the discomfort. So the reason Virginia was so amazing was because she's cleaner. Cleaners are on their feet all day. They have an amazing amount of endurance. So Virginia would come to my house at like 3:30, 4, and we would just go ham on everything for a number of hours, and then she'd finish at around 2 o'clock or something, 1:30. But she was absolutely incredible, and obviously working alongside one another, she didn't need to be a baker and I didn't need to be a teacher because, you know, it's like being in Italy watching Nonna make pasta. You know, you watch someone long enough and you get to grips with the thing. So between me and Virginia, we were baking bread for everyone around the UK. We were doing all the bread for the supermarkets. We were doing the gyms for the cafes, etc., etc. So it's a lot. I'm verging on burnout at this point. Retention. So the customers are like, oh yeah, this is amazing. What else do you have? What else do you have? What do you eat for lunch? What do you eat for dinner? How do you live your life? Do you run? Like, do you drink? What do you do? So hashtag Happy Tummy Co kept coming into things. So I rebranded to the Happy Tummy Co because it was now becoming more of a lifestyle brand, and it was an educational brand first and foremost. So we weren't a bakery, we were an educational brand. I was still doing lots of talks around the Soho houses, and that was how I onboarded people. So I would do maybe a talk once every 2 weeks, and every time I would do a talk, sales would go up by 150%. And I would inevitably be like, are you a fibre activist? Is that what you are? I was like, I like it. That's going on my little tagline. So because of retention, so obviously retention is key to my business without investment. And then also key to my business is showing up in one's world more. So like I need to give my customer more options. And so I had to develop a range really, really, really quickly. And so developed a big range. And also, you know, you're figuring shit out. You don't know what you're doing. You know, you're just trying things. You're just like trying. And because I've no one to answer to, I've got no investors to answer to, I can be as agile as I like, right? And I don't need to care about money. I don't need to care about the profit margin. I don't need to care about loss. I just need to care about my customer. So I am still completely focused on my customer. I have no one saying to me that olive oil is way too expensive, because that's limiting, and any limiting thought is bad for entrepreneurship. So I launched these, and then I launched a food to go range, and I've got a lot of food. And then I started all over again. So I've tried all this stuff. So back in the day when I first started doing it, every single loaf was done by hand, and every single loaf had its own bowl. So that was quite niche. And there is my kitchen. That's Virginia's hand putting the apple cider vinegar in. So that was the turnover per week at the time. And there's all the loaves fermenting in my kitchen. So pretty, I'm almost embarrassed to show you Creative Bunch, the packaging. But so because we had so many products, and because in London at the time, to get a print run of packaging, the minimum SKU was like 3,000. And that was too much, right? That's too much for me to invest in. So I just had parchment paper and like cute rope and stickers. So it was pretty labor intensive, the packaging, and it took a long time, but it looked pretty at the time. I mean, looking at it now, I'm like, oh God, but that was it at the time. There was my dog, Biggie. He started at 3 a.m. every morning with me, absolute hero. That was the dough for one of our soft sweet potato baps. Again, all those were done by hand. Okay, so I'm at a point now where I am really exhausted, and I'm like, okay, I need to make money now, right? Because I still don't want investment, but I need a bakery now. I need to move this shit out of my home because it's a lot. So this is an example of what wasn't working for us. So you can see we're in a Planet Organic store here in Islington. And like, you know, you've got all these plastic packaging products, and then you've got us. And this is the range that's going to them all the time. And like Planet Organic, they're just a bit shit. Like, you know, I'm like, what are people buying? Like, you know, as soon as something comes into the store, like, what are people buying? What do they want? And they're like, oh, we've no data for you. And I'm like, what? You do. You know, people come to the till and they buy stuff. So, like, my relationship with Planet Organic, like, they're pure capitalism, like, overpromise, underdeliver, and then 4 times a year they want us to discount the product. But there is no margin for discount because we use such premium ingredients and such premium packaging. We have no room for discounting. Also, don't discount food. There's no room for discounts in food. None. So, like, I'm just getting pissed off with them. So I'm like, I'm losing this. This is so stressful. Like, this is so stressful. The reason I engaged with them in the first place was I really thought it was going to be a great place for discovery. So I really thought that we were going to build up a set of customers from there. But like, celebrities go and shop there. So yeah, we had lots of celebrity clients, and they discovered us through there. But like, you know, businesses aren't built on celebrities. I think everyone's aware of that. Businesses are built on customers, and that's it. So I was getting frustrated with how long it took us to package things. And so for me, I was like, I need to walk away from retail. I need to go back to the start. This was our food to go range. We also had Birchers. So teff is the ingredient that's central to all of our products. It's the seed of love grass. It's grown across 86% of Ethiopia. It was the first grass ever cultivated for human consumption in 8000 BC. It is the best ingredient in the world. If you were to pick one ingredient to change your life and give you lifelong health, teff is it. So Jonas, who's the founder of Love Grass, an Ethiopian guy and farmer, we were fortunate enough to meet in 2015, and I ended up being the first legal importer to the UK of teff from Ethiopia. And because I really wanted to educate people around teff, I created these products around it. And you can see here that I kind of copied and was very inspired by cacao and coffee messaging. So I thought, you know, people need to know where this comes from. And I love cacao, and I love coffee, and I love packaging. So that was kind of inspired by that, but it just didn't work. Like, because I have no investment, you know, we're doing tastings in Planet Organic and stuff like that, but I have no money to put behind teff. I have no money to put behind Instagram ads. I don't think I'm even on Instagram at this stage. I have no marketing budget. The only budget I have is myself that can go on a talk every 2 weeks. So I have no money to put behind this. So this was a stupid move by me. Okay, so here's what works, right? So that sign, Sam, who was head of marketing at the time, she had no budget, bless her, so she had to do this in my front lawn. So she made this sign. This sign, free. Well, paint, whatever the paint was at the time, 10 quid. So it was stuff like this. It was just activism. Activism is what brought us people. So I mentioned that already, that our revenue would go up by 150% every time I did a talk. So I was really lucky at the time, because I was talking about poo so frequently, and it was slightly entertaining. I used to get asked to, you know, do festivals, present at the BBC, you know, like really, really well-established brands in the UK got me to come and do talks. All the newspapers were talking about my work, all the magazines were talking about my work. So I was incredibly privileged when it came to PR. So my need for a marketing budget really was few and far between, because my approach to this thing was like consumer-centric and 100% honesty and vulnerability. So it was really, really easy to let go of stuff that wasn't working for us. What was working for us really well was being in gyms. So the Frame studios across London, you'd rock up to a Frame studio for a HIIT class or whatever, and there'd be a cafe, and you'd smell the Happy Tummy Loaf toasting, and people were like, "Ooh, what's that?" And then there'd be information on it, and all the staff were trained up in it, and they could talk to the protein, the magnesium, everything. So that was incredible. Those gyms were an amazing place of discovery. And also, we weren't sitting on a supermarket shelf beside a whole host of other breads. So amazing. Discovery, discovery, discovery in those kind of places. Beautiful. So obviously, like, the margins in my range were like, there was such a variety. The Happy Tummy Loaf had the best margin, and then all others were just retention products, and their margins were really, really, really small. So simplified everything, pared everything back. I found this box on Crafts, one of Crafts' websites, and I was like, this is it. I'm like, gone supermarkets, gone the product range, gone cereals, gone like all that is, I'm so far away from that. Like, I'm not ready for any of that. So I found this box and I just pared the range back to 3 products. So we went from like 20 products to 3. And that can feel like a scary move for people. They're like, oh God, but it wasn't scary at all, because I knew that I was paring it back to the 3 products that actually worked for people's health and could really like stick to the promise that we had set out with. So we literally just pare it back to 3 products, a loaf that we don't have here today, and scones, and the product that you have now. And now we're in a bakery and we're full flight. This is a Happy Tummy Loaf in a fridge in a cafe. Again, perfect, beautiful, not beside loads of fucking plastic bread from France. So that worked really well for us. And then in the cafes, so you'd go to a cafe and, there's the white sourdough bread, yada, yada, yada. But if you want a digestible bread, you have the option to spend £1 more and get it with Happy Tummy bread. And then on the back of that card was education. So there was a bunch of cafes that really got behind me and the mission. So you'd get your sandwich served with this card. So that worked for us. That was good. So this is where we're at now. We're only doing subscription one-off, and I launched collection points. So all those Planet Organics, they said that they'd be a collection point. So that was amazing. And then all the gyms were collection points, all the cafes were collection points. So we had collection points all over London, and I've got a biker showing up at the bakery 3 days a week, and they cycle everything around. So we've got 5 bikers on the road at this point, cycling everything around. And then at this point, we're working with DPD for UK-wide delivery. So the great thing about this is, like, Planet Organic would have waste. And that was just too much for me. Like, I was like, this food is too expensive. So now, because we're only baking to order, we have no waste. And by the way, bakeries create the most amount of food waste in the whole food industry. So I have a big problem with that. So we've no waste. We're only baking to order. We've got no marketing spend, but we have cash flow, and we are changing lives. Our word of mouth is incredible. And we're addressing a real problem, which is 1 in 3 people in the UK at this point are constipated. So at this point, I now have time to actually go to Ethiopia and spend some time there. And that's what I do. Because TEF is central to what we do, I wanted to represent Ethiopia as well as possible. So I go to Ethiopia, I spend time with the farmers, I learn how to make injera. Injera batter is now one of our products. And this was a transformative time for me. This is also when I divorced my husband, so I'm like, yeah, fuck capitalism, I'm in Ethiopia and this is great. So lots is happening in my personal life, and you just keep chucking on. So this is TEF, this grass here. So this is a couple of months away from being harvested. So the girl in front of me, Yaki, the grass will probably come up to maybe her elbow. So I was there in May and they harvest in October. So you can see it's going to get much higher. Also, you can see it's very, very different to wheat and barley and things that you guys would drive past around Ireland. So the teff seed is the size of a poppy seed, so it can only be harvested by hand. So all the farmers are just out in the field harvesting by hand. So I was teaching yesterday, I had 15 people in the Teach in Mayo, and there was this lady and she was like, Jesus, this grain's very expensive, £10 a kilo. And I'm just like, man, like what? They're harvesting by hand and it's imported by, value your health, God damn it. But yeah, so this is teff, and that was one hell of a trip. So I am back in London doing everything. Anyway, so I get another talk. So I get asked to do this talk with the Doctor's Kitchen, and on my way to the talk, I pass a cafe in London that says, salad in 60 seconds or less. And I was like, God damn it, I'm sick of this place. So I was just like, that is just fucking horrendous marketing. Like, that's awful. Like, that's not doing anyone any favors to respect the food system or respect their health. So I'm just majorly pissed off and I'm really burnt out. And I'm just like, I need to get out of here. So I moved to Sussex and I built this. So this was part of this outdoor bakery school. So I was just like, I'm losing my will to live here. People don't value their health. People don't value the food system. Everyone's saying everything is expensive, but they still go on holidays. They still drive BMWs. They still live in big houses. Like, what? So I built this outdoor bakery school, and what starts happening is people start coming from all around the UK to learn how to make bread on fire with me. And then, if anyone's familiar with like Hotel Chocolat, the founder reached out to me and he asked me to develop a whole host of breads for his Japanese cafes and his London cafes. And so I started doing a bit of consultancy work and doing cool things in that sphere. And that was cool. And I kind of came back to life. And now at this point, I'm dating a British guy, Tom, and he doesn't value food in the same way I do, so that relationship didn't work out either. So we're about to hit COVID now, and Brexit's happened, and I'm living in the countryside, probably alongside a lot of Brexit voters, and I'm in the middle of a sheep farm, so I'm down a dirt track, so it's me and my dog, and people are coming to me every week and we're still baking, we're still delivering across the UK. But I'm like, I want to go home, you know? So I'd never been to Mayo, never been to Westport. So one day I hop on Daft, and there's 2 houses in all of Ireland that will rent to someone with a dog. There's one in Limerick and there's one in Ballyglass in Mayo. Ring the Ballyglass in Mayo lady. Hey, thinking of moving back to Ireland? She's like, yeah, I can have the house ready for you in 3 days. Book a boat back to Ireland. So yeah, this is everything here I designed with makers to make this outdoor bakery. That was a really cool time. So here I am in Westport, there's Biggie. So I found this unit in Westport that was an ex-NAMA building. Now at this point, I think I have 12 grand. So I moved back to Mayo, I have 12 grand. It's the middle of COVID, and that 12 grand has to pay my rent, you know, a bunch of stuff, and has to start the company. So revenue get onto me and they're like, you've imported a British car. You owe us 3 grand. So I literally just sent them my bank account, and then that was enough of that. They didn't get onto me. So with 12 grand and with, you know, months until the builders were allowed in because they weren't allowed to build, I started just online teaching to get some cash flow in. But that was the space. And I think before the Teach opened, I think I had €100 in my bank account, and I was like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, Biggie, it's going to be okay. So, like, you know, we were on tenterhooks, me and Biggie around then. But here's where we are today. So we've been open in Mayo now. This July, we'll be 3 years open in Westport. So we're just coming up to our 3-year anniversary. So this is exactly what we are working towards now, and I will be working towards this mission for the rest of my life. So the reason we exist is we want to reduce cancer and heart disease by a significant %. I'm not going to read slides to you because that's really boring, but please read the slide. But one thing I'm really passionate about is, I'm sure everyone here knows someone who's had a stroke, or maybe you get more than 3 headaches a month. If you get more than 3 headaches a month, that's categorized as having a neurological condition. Neurological conditions stem from not enough B1 in the diet, whereas B1 in the diet, whole grains. So if you're not eating a whole grain diet that's been through a soaker or ferment, you're deficient in B1, your chances of getting a neurological condition skyrocket up. So 17% of Ireland today have this condition. And if you go on any neurological health website, they will all attribute it to a lack of B in the diet. I could do another talk on nutrition, but I won't go into that too much today. So that's what drives us. Okay, so when people, very kindly, there's some customers in the room today, so I feel really grateful for you guys coming. So you guys might be able to relate to this. Like, when people come into the Teach, they kind of walk in and they're like, what is this place? Because it's just open plan, and it doesn't really look like a bakery, it doesn't look like an office, it's kind of weird looking. But essentially, like, what we're trying to do is build new behavior around buying and around one's approach to health. And that's going to be my lifelong mission. And my mission to reduce illness in this country is completely dependent on consumer buy-in for a better planet for all, for the soil, for animals, for plant life, and for human life. So we are more like a GP practice. So when you come to our website and you place an order, Anne, who's head of communications, will get back to you and she'll say, hey, Sean, thanks so much for your order. You can expect your delivery on this date. This is what's happening. The nutritionals and everything are on the website. And then, like, Sean can email Anne at any time and ask any question under the sun. I can hop on a phone with Sean and have a consultation. So we're more like a GP practice than a bakery or, you know, a typical like food business. And we will continue to be that way. I'm not into, like, you know, an automated journey for someone. I'm into a unique journey for someone. So being consumer-centric defines the pace of my work. An investor's not defining the pace of my work. You know, the hike in ingredient prices. So all of our ingredients, the cost of our ingredients on average has gone up by 70%. And we've not increased we've increased maybe some prices by €1, but but I've just absorbed that because we're going to ride this out. But we have discovered that it kind of takes us showing up in someone's life for 9 months before they make a purchase. And so in that instance, retention is really important for us. So being a GP practice is really important for us. Like having a personal relationship with our customer is really, really important to us. And I would say, if I'm very honest, we have a lot of work to do there. We have so much work to do because this has all been so mission-led and heart-led and not data-led. Like we are very person-led, we are very heart-led. So no one can really advise us because we don't fit into a capitalist model. So I would say that our approach is to be vulnerable. So I started doing this weekly newsletter a year ago, and some are quite vulnerable and others aren't. But I guess I show up as I am on that Monday and write in accordance with that way. And I guess what's happened is that since I started doing that newsletter, our customer emails have completely changed. So we used to get customer emails being like, why haven't I got my loaf yet? Like this tastes like shit. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh God, man, this is real tough. Like, and we're not Amazon, you know that, right? We're like a few little people in Westport, like trying to leave the world a better place. So, when you get those kind of emails, you're like, it was a downer for the team because like the team that are around me, they're really sensitive, like spirit-led people. And so it wasn't good for team morale. But since I've started this newsletter, we don't get any emails like that anymore. The emails we get have been transformative and have transformed the energy on my team. The emails that we get from people make us work harder now. So that newsletter has been one of the best things I've ever done. And it is quickening the behavioral shift necessary for health and for all communities to thrive. So the most important things I've learned to date are you have to have crack, like you have to laugh. I just absolutely have to have fun, right? And without fun, my creativity wanes. And without being around good, supportive people, my creativity wanes. And the biggest thing is just like discomfort has to become comfortable. Like if you're in a room and you're feeling discomfort, it's like just don't be afraid of it. And then bounding myself has been really, really crucial. But bounding myself has only come with my mental health getting better. And my mental health has gotten better because of the product. So I'm just going to play a video for you guys so you can kind of see. So apologies, you can't hear the music, which is a shame. But this basically is the bakery and what we do every day. This oven that you saw there in that shot, we were on a show called 10 Things to Know About on RTE. They approached me and we filmed 1 November for that. And when that show aired, I then got written about by Katie McGuinness in The Independent. Following that, I was written about in The Examiner. So for 6 months, we had a beautiful stream of PR, and that PR was what bought us our oven. So from that stream of PR, we got about 35 grand, and the oven was 35 grand. So that was kind of fortuitous timing. So this is our packaging now. So you can see we've gone from like that crazy parchment paper and coloured string to making it really simple. And the beauty of not selling in supermarket or anywhere else that we need, you know, lots of labelling on, is that we can just really pare back our branding. When you go to a bakery, that bakery doesn't tell you the nutrition in your sourdough or in your pastry. We do. We don't have to, but of course we're led by the nutritional content in your food. So we're really passionate about sharing that with people. And so the paper that you guys are getting your biscuits in today, that's a rice paper, which is completely compostable. And then this is recyclable paper. We do want to get to a place where we don't need to use a sticker, but we're trying to figure that out right now. And then, so what is our plan for the next 30 years? So we want to own our own farm. We want to grow our own grain. We want to focus on growing flax in Ireland. So we want to be completely self-sufficient, and we want to be able to promise food security in Ireland. Loads of companies are closing down. Loads of regenerative farmers are stopping their practice because consumers don't value the food system. In Ireland today, we spend 6% on our food. That's down from 40% many years ago. In Spain, they spend 40%. In France, 25%. 6% is diabolical. And it's why farming in Ireland is in such turmoil. So the work that I'm going to be doing over the next 30 years is regenerating the land around me and getting that land into a place where it can be tillable and it can feed Ireland. This is the landscape that we currently live in. You can see a huge amount of deforestation. And we've got a lot of work to do, but we're ready. So thank you so much for spending your time with me.